恐怖すら覚えるな。なんという完成度だ。ジュニエーブルとケイジャンスパイス、スパイシーと甘み、熊肉を生かす黄金比、トータルバランスが成立している。彼が香りと美味しさの関係性を科学的に理論づけて追求してきた成果だろう。
Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Anime with Alvin. Today, I'll be making the fried bear from Food Wars, 2 ways. One of them will be the main character's dish, and the other one will be his opponent's. Things are about to get pretty intense, so in classic anime fashion, we're gonna start with the opponent's dish first. I have here legally sourced bear meat. We're starting with bear ribs and bear kebab meat, which is probably cut up sirloin. I'm taking the meat off the ribs, cutting up the fat and the kebab meat until they're nice little chunks, and throwing them in a 450-degree oven to roast them for about 30 minutes until they get nice and brown. The roasted bear bones and meat are actually for a bear gravy, so we're gonna add these golden brown chunks into a large pot along with 2 cut onions, 3 large carrots, a head of halved garlic, a couple slices of ginger, a tablespoon of black peppercorns, and 2 bay leaves, followed by a generous helping of water, just enough to cover everything. I'm now gonna let this simmer for about 4 hours until the meat is tender and all the flavors had time to infuse. We got a lot of work to do. Now for the main part of the opponent's dish, chicken fried bear. I have here New York steak cut from bear, so New York bear, which sounds both cool and intimidating at the same time. After taking a meat mallet and pounding out each steak of bear using saran wrap as a cushion, I'm cutting them into smaller, more manageable chunks. It smells really intense, so we gotta do something about that. As the opponent cleverly does in the show, he makes a garlic onion puree, cutting up 1 white onion into chunks, but not crying like I always do, 8 cloves of garlic, a couple slices of ginger, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and some black pepper. These all go in a food processor and pureed until smooth. The idea is that the intense aromatics and flavors in this paste will go to war with the flavors from the bear, and hopefully win. So I'm giving our steaks a nice ginger garlic onion bath, and letting this marinate for about a day or so. After the 4 hours are up, it's time to check in on our stock and strain it. I like to press all the flavor and juices from all the sediment and the meat and the vegetables just to get everything in there. And to my pleasant surprise, this smells like chicken noodle soup. No detection of gaminess whatsoever, so I'd wager to say things are looking pretty good right now. The opponent also uses his secret Cajun Spice mix, so after locating the teaspoon measure, I'm combining a tablespoon of paprika, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, a teaspoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and half a teaspoon of cayenne. I'm officially done with this teaspoon. Tiny whisk everything together and we have our own Cajun Spice blend. Another technique the opponent uses is crushed up juniper berries as a seasoning. This apparently also combats the gaminess and adds an aromatic note, so that's what we're doing with the mortar and pestle. Mortar, not mortal.
雪平ちんが試作したハンバーグを改良し、さらに衣をまとわせることで熊の風味をより凝縮、強化させたメンチカツだ。さあ審査員の皆さん、俺なりの最高の熊肉料理。
I'm now going to start with the main character's dish. These are Schisandra berries. Berries. Good one. Schisandra berries are also known as a 5-flavor fruit, used widely in medicinal and herbal cuisine throughout Asia. The main character steeps these berries in sake, which apparently brings out their essential oils and flavors, heightening the effectiveness. I will do the same, and let them hang out for a few hours. Alright, now bear with me as we do some multitasking. Another good one. In the middle, I'm reducing 3 cups of that bear stock down to 1 cup. On the right, I'm sauteing some onions and garlic in some butter, and on the left, I'm slowly caramelizing honey, but not just any kind of honey, Amur cork tree honey, which the main character specifically uses for its slightly bitter undertones, as normal honey would be just too sweet. It's a lot to keep an eye on. Managing 3 pans is not easy. After the honey is caramelized for an extra hint of bitterness, I'm adding in balsamic vinegar to thin it out. This apparently helps counter the sweetness by adding acidity. After the stock is reduced and the onions are a nice golden brown, we're combining all 3 of these pans into 1 vessel. Even though the main character doesn't do this, I'm immersion blending this because I think it'll make a better consistency and enhance the flavor as well. After adding in a couple of pinches of kosher salt, I'm now adding in those sake steeped Schisandra berries from earlier. Now there's a lot of stuff in this sauce, so it's time for quality control. It's a little too sweet, so I'm adding a splash of balsamic. This tastes quite strong, but delicious, but we'll have to see if this sauce can tame that bear. On to the main portion of the main character's dish, a bear minchikatsu. Minchikatsu is a common dish found in Japan, which is made with the seasoned ground meat mixture breaded in panko and fried. So to start, I'm making my own ground bear, the same way I make my own ground beef for a burger. I'm starting by cutting up chunks of short rib and brisket, about 2 pounds of each, into small chunks and putting them on a tray and setting them in the freezer until they're mildly frozen. This is a technique that I use because I don't have a meat grinder at home, so I like to do this with a food processor. I now wish I had a meat grinder at home. Good thing we're not at my house, because the Babish team does have a meat grinder. Kendall has lovingly prepared the meat grinder for me by freezing its components. If both the meat and the parts are cold, nothing's gonna stick, everything is gonna come out smooth, and all will be right in the world. And remember, if you're not having fun when you're cooking, you're just making food. The main character also uses ground up Shisandra berries in the minchikatsu itself. So we're just gonna chop up a couple of those pretty roughly, transfer our freshly ground bear into a large bowl, and start mixing. Additions to this minchikatsu include 1 egg, those beautiful sauteed onions from earlier, a splash of bear stock, thank you Kendall, 4 tablespoons of panko breadcrumbs, and a teaspoon of that ground Shisandra from earlier. Give the meat a good old mix. And these are now ready to be shaped into patties. I like to use a little bit of oil on my hands just to make sure that this doesn't stick, and I'm shaping these into burger-sized patties, like the size you want them if you're really hungry. After we've done all we can do, these now go to set in the fridge. Covered, of course. While those go chill for a bit, I'm gonna finish the opponent's bear gravy. First, I'm rendering some bear fat trimmings from earlier, about 3 tablespoons or so. Then I'm adding in 3 tablespoons of flour, making a bear roux. Once the roux has reached a bear-like color, I'm gonna pour in half a cup of that bear stock from earlier, whisking the whole time. Once the stock is incorporated, I'm slowly adding in about a cup of milk, again, whisking the whole time. It's kind of like playing whack-a-mole with lumps. If you see any forming, you beat the bear out of them. To season, we're gonna use about a teaspoon of the Cajun Spice blend we made earlier, along with half a teaspoon of ground juniper berries and kosher salt. Once everybody in there is good and happy, we're gonna let this set aside until we're ready to serve. I'm now gonna start frying the opponent's dish. To make the frying batter, I'm combining a 1/4 cup of cornstarch with 2 teaspoons of the Cajun Spice blend, along with 2 eggs, and a splash of water to get the consistency I want. Now we're moving to the stove, where I have the oil heated to 350 degrees. Now remember, these bear steak chunks have been marinating in that ginger garlic paste for about a day. And after a quick skinny dip in the batter, they're gonna take a full plunge into this hot oil until golden brown and crispy. About a few minutes. Now I'm not sure if this is the actual way to do a chicken fried meat, but the opponent in the show seems to know what he's doing, so I will do my best as well. After the chicken fried bear cutlets drain and rest on a rack, it's time to plate them up. A little bit of lettuce for presentation, 2 of these cutlets, and a ramekin of that bear gravy from earlier. And there you have it, the chicken fried bear from Food Wars. Marinated heavily in ginger garlic and onion, seasoned with Cajun spice and juniper berries, served with a bear gravy. Here goes nothing. I don't taste bear. I honestly don't taste meat at all. That ginger garlic onion paste really did its job in taming that bear. I can only taste flavors from that paste. Kind of tastes like dumplings. The creaminess of the gravy offsets the pungency of the garlic and the onion marinated bear. But how will the main character's dish turn out? Now that our minced bear patties have been chilled, it's time to give them a nice breading jacket. This is a very traditional setup of flour, eggs, and panko breadcrumbs. Each patty spends a few seconds in each bath. And after all our patties have been encrusted, we go again. 350 degree oil, a couple minutes until the outside is beautiful golden brown and crispy. After a quick rest and a quick drain, we're plating up again. And I present to you the main character's fried bear minchikatsu, served with a caramelized honey, balsamic vinegar, and Shisandra berry sauce. Here's how it looks with the sauce slowly draped on top. And now for the taste. This one has a lot going on. I feel like I'm getting punched in the face by a bear. But immediately afterwards, 3 pretty girls named Honey, Balsamic, and Shisandra are caressing my cheeks and giving me a hug. Which makes sense because in the show, the main character actually does not try to tame the bear. He actually wants to let the bear out. I gotta hand it to the main character, whether it's plot armor, pure skill, or good writing. His dishes slap pretty hard. Sometimes hard enough to make your clothes explode.